God is preparing you for something greater, the unexpected awakening. Have you ever felt like life suddenly shakes you? Just when everything seems stable? Like the ground beneath your feet begins to crack without warning, and what once felt solid now feels uncertain? It's as if an invisible force moves through your world, disrupting routines, changing plans, unraveling what you thought was under your control. But what if I told you that this disruption is not a punishment, that it is not chaos, but divine orchestration in disguise? Because sometimes the shaking you feel is not life falling apart. It's heaven making room. It's the Creator rearranging your reality to align it with a higher purpose. It's not that something is wrong with you. It's that something sacred is awakening within you. You see, comfort often becomes the enemy of growth, and God, in His infinite wisdom, knows before He can elevate you, He must first remove what no longer serves your destiny. Every branch in me that bears fruit, He prunes, that it may bear more fruit. John 15:2. That pruning, that internal discomfort you feel, is not failure. It is preparation. It is spiritual engineering at the soul level. It may come as confusion or as a gentle but persistent ache, not of the body, but of the spirit. An ache that says, "You were made for more, and now is the time to remember." This is not the end. This is the beginning of your transformation. The storm didn't come to destroy you. It came to break the shell that kept your light hidden. Just like a seed must crack open in darkness before it can rise into the light, so must your identity be shaken, so the real you can emerge. And when it does, you'll realize that every loss, every tremor was part of a sacred equation designed to return you to your true self. It's not a crisis. It's a sacred reset. At first, it feels like a breakdown. You can't quite describe it, but something deep inside begins to shift. What once inspired you now leaves you empty. People you once connected with no longer understand you. Even your own reflection in the mirror feels like a stranger. It's as if you've woken up in an alternate version of your life, where everything looks the same, but nothing feels the same. That's not confusion. It's spiritual transition. It's the moment your soul begins to crave truth. Not the surface level kind, but the kind that can only be found in sacred silence. Because there comes a time when the soul can no longer live off routine, when the comforts that once sustained you become the very chains that hold you back. And that discomfort you feel, that sacred unrest, it's not punishment. It's not a sign that you're lost. It's the echo of your calling. God is not disconnecting from you. He's drawing you deeper into divine intimacy, into your eternal purpose. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Science confirms it too. Your subconscious mind, which governs 95% of your daily decisions, is wired to resist change. It was built to survive, not to evolve. It prefers the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. That's why you keep repeating patterns you no longer want. Why your body resists growth, even when your spirit is crying for more. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains it clearly. The body becomes addicted to emotions of the past. When you try to shift, it reacts like an addict being deprived of its drug. Your nervous system panics, the mind questions everything, and your soul trembles. But here's the truth. You are not breaking down. You are being broken open. You're not losing control. You're shedding what's not aligned with the person you're becoming. The discomfort is evidence that the old identity is losing its power. You're not meant to repeat cycles. You were born to break them. You are being called to expand, to rise, to remember who you truly are. And before God moves in your external world, He will always begin by transforming your inner landscape. He'll expose your attachments. He'll challenge your false beliefs. He'll call you to see with new eyes. And yes, the process may feel like fire, but it's the kind that purifies, not the kind that destroys. You are not being punished. You're being reborn. It may feel like loss. It may feel like collapse. But in heaven's language, it's a sacred reset. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're not being destroyed. You're being emptied, so you can be filled again with something greater. Jesus made it clear. Every branch that bears fruit, He prunes, that it may bear more fruit. John 15:2. This is what you're feeling. Not confusion, but cleansing. Not chaos, but construction. Not loss, but rebirth. You're like a temple under renovation. First, the walls must come down. Old structures must be removed. Noise, dust, discomfort, it's all part of the sacred process, because God doesn't want you to build your future on unstable foundations. He's making space for something higher, stronger, more aligned with your divine essence. And though it may feel like everything is being torn apart, it's divine design dressed as disruption. This is not regression. This is reprogramming. This is your soul reclaiming the reins of your life. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it neurological chaos, a moment when the conditioned mind loses control and the soul begins to take over. Your body resists, your mind doubts, but deep within, your soul begins to whisper, "Keep going. Don't stop now. What's coming is greater than anything you're leaving behind." It's like an old building being torn down to make way for a cathedral of light. Every broken brick, every falling wall is a divine signal that says, you're not meant to live in ruins anymore. There are blessings God wants to pour into your life, but they require empty hands and a willing heart. So while you try to hold on to what was, He's trying to open you up to what could be. And yes, the process may feel like chaos on the outside, but in truth, it's precision from above. You're not stuck. You're in spiritual labor. The contractions are uncomfortable, but they are birthing a new you. This is not your breakdown. This is your becoming. The battle between the old self and the soul awakening. At first, it doesn't feel like peace. It feels like resistance, like your body is rebelling, your thoughts are racing, and your emotions are in chaos. But don't mistake this turbulence for failure. It's not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something old is losing power and something sacred is rising. This is the death of the old self and the birth of your divine identity. Joe Dispenza describes it with scientific clarity. Your body has been chemically conditioned to the emotions of your past: fear, guilt, shame, anxiety. These emotional states became your home, not because they brought peace, but because they were familiar. And the subconscious equates familiar with safe. So when you try to change, when you meditate, when you pray, when you choose faith instead of fear, your nervous system panics. It enters withdrawal because it craves the emotional chemicals it's used to. It's like living in a house full of cracks. You know it's not stable, but you've memorized every corner, every weak spot, and deep down, you believe that staying in that house is safer than walking into the unknown. But here's the divine truth. You were never created to stay there. You were made to rise, to walk in freedom. to build a new inner home on the foundation of faith, coherence, and divine design. That's why the resistance hurts, because the old patterns are dying. The ego is losing its throne, and the soul is waking up, and the signs are clear. Sudden irritation for no reason, anxiety that appears out of nowhere, sleepless nights when your body feels exhausted, doubts that never used to visit now camp in your mind. You're not broken. You're transforming. Your nervous system is learning a new frequency. Your brain is forging new synaptic paths, and your spirit is reclaiming its power. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. You're not in danger. You're in transition. You're not in crisis. You're in spiritual evolution. And as painful as it may feel, this is holy ground. This is the place where the old you ends and the real you begins. The sacred moment where heaven responds. There comes a moment when the noise fades, when the thoughts lose their grip and you find yourself in a space that feels like nothing, but is actually everything. You're not moving forward, you're not falling back, you're just still. And in that stillness, you meet the most important person in your life, your true self. You close your eyes, place a hand over your heart, and take a breath so deep that for the first time in a long time, you feel God breathing with you. This is not a breakdown. This is not failure. This is the pause before resurrection. It's not silence because God has abandoned you. It's silence because He's preparing you. Joe Dispenza calls it heart coherence. It's that sacred alignment between your mind, your emotions, and your actions, where your entire being vibrates in unity with your intention. It's the moment where you stop fighting, stop overthinking, stop asking for proof, and instead, you surrender to presence. It's the shift from control to trust, from panic to peace, from seeking to receiving. And in that sacred coherence, something happens that science can't fully explain. But your soul knows it deeply. The quantum field responds. Heaven takes notice. God enters the room because the Creator doesn't move through force. He moves through frequency, not through desperation, but through alignment. The miracle doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't knock down your door. It waits until your heart becomes the invitation. This is the place where your vibration becomes your prayer, your stillness becomes your declaration, and your surrender becomes your weapon. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds. Philippians 4:6-7. That peace is not just emotional. It's energetic. It's the doorway to divine manifestation. And when you rest in that space, you're no longer chasing answers. You're becoming the answer. The sacred pause before the miracle. There is a moment in every transformation when everything goes quiet. No signs, no movement, no breakthrough, just stillness. And your mind screams, "Why isn't anything happening?" But that stillness isn't absence, it's preparation. God isn't ignoring you. He's fine-tuning you. You've been planted, not buried. And though the soil is dark and the silence heavy, something powerful is happening beneath the surface. The kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:21. And like a seed hidden in the earth, your miracle is maturing in secret, Joe Dispenza calls it. The sacred interval, the gap between intention and manifestation. It's the space where the old beliefs try to resurface. Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe it's not working. Maybe this was all in vain. But those voices aren't truth. They are echoes of your past identity, trying to pull you back into survival, because the ego is terrified of the power that comes from your surrender. This is the test, not of strength, but of alignment, because waiting isn't weakness. It's sacred practice. It's spiritual integration. It's the invisible moment where heaven watches to see, will you remain in faith, even when you can't see the result. The ego says, show me and I'll believe. But faith says, believe and you'll see. So what do you do in the waiting? You hold your frequency. You keep your heart open. You bless the process, even when it makes no sense. You keep watering the invisible until the invisible becomes inevitable, because the universe, like God, never arrives late, but neither does it come early. It shows up when you're ready to hold what you asked for. And readiness is not about time, it's about vibration. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. So you praise before you see it. You act as if it's already yours. You prepare the room before the guest arrives. You create the space in your soul before the blessing comes to occupy it. This is not passive waiting. It is active becoming. And the miracle, the true miracle, doesn't begin when it shows up in your life. It begins when it first takes root in your heart. You're not being broken. You're being reformed by divine hands. The pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to refine you. The discomfort didn't appear to punish you, but to reshape you. Because sometimes, in order for the soul to remember its power, it must first walk through the very darkness that once made it forget. So when everything collapses, the plans fall apart, the people drift away, the future goes silent dash, you start asking, why is this happening to me? But the real shift begins when you change the question. Not why me, but what is this trying to awaken within me? What truth is this pain trying to reveal? That's the moment when the victim dies and the conscious creator is born. Because the universe doesn't respond to victimhood. It responds to awareness, and so does God. And when you stop running from your shadow and instead sit with it, when you ask your fear what it needs, when you listen to your own wounds without judgment, something opens. You begin to reclaim your power. You start to understand it was never about what happened outside of you. It was always about what you were willing to transform within you. God doesn't need your life to be perfect. He needs your heart to be available. Available to let go. Available to grow. Available to trust, even when nothing makes sense. The potter does not discard the clay. He reshapes it. Jeremiah 18:4. You are not being thrown away. You are being remolded by the hands of love. That pressure you feel, that silence that feels endless, that weight that makes no sense, it's not abandonment, it's divine formation. It's the potter reshaping the vessel, and vessels with greater capacity require deeper pressure. The roots grow deepest in the darkest soil. And you, beloved soul, are being rooted for something eternal. The field doesn't respond to time. It responds to frequency. And when your frequency aligns with heaven, reality has no choice but to bend in your favor. So no, you're not being delayed. You're being calibrated. For the magnitude of what's coming, the miracle isn't outside of you, it's inside you. Waiting for you to remember who you really are. When you align, heaven aligns with you. So now, In this sacred moment, you stop chasing, you stop begging, you stop doubting, and you begin to become. You realize you were never waiting for the miracle. The miracle was waiting for you, waiting for your heart to soften, waiting for your vibration to rise, waiting for your soul to say, I'm ready, not because I have it all figured out, but because I trust the one who does. And that trust, that faith, that decision to stay in coherence, to choose gratitude even in the void, to bless the process even when it hurts, that is the vibration that moves mountains. That is the frequency that opens the heavens. Because God does not respond to impatience, He responds to alignment. The quantum field, like your faith, only needs one thing: a sustained vibration fueled by divine intention. So you breathe, you smile, you remain present. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are aligned with the One who makes all things new. Being present doesn't mean staying still. It means staying awake, with every breath, with every step, with every decision that says, I choose faith, even when the evidence hasn't arrived yet. That's not pretending. That's spiritual maturity, because the soil of the miracle is not certainty, it's trust. And in that trust, you become the living vibration of the very life you're asking for. You stop asking and start embodying. You stop doubting and start resonating. You stop waiting for the next chapter and start becoming the author of it. Because the real question is not, when will it come? The real question is, who do I need to become to receive it? And when you become that version, heaven moves. Your reality shifts. The atmosphere obeys. And the future you longed for becomes the present you're finally ready to hold. So don't run from the silence. Don't reject the discomfort. Don't misread the process. What looks like delay might be the divine impulse that's preparing to launch you into your next dimension. You are not collapsing. You are expanding. You are not being broken. You are being awakened. You are not waiting on your moment. Your moment is waiting on you. And when your soul aligns, the entire universe bows in agreement. If this message awakened something deep within you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Rise and Transform. For more sacred messages, quantum teachings, and divine reminders of who you truly are, your rise begins now.